All right, welcome back to the Goldpilled Show. It is episode 21. You may notice that you may notice these overlays on the video if you're watching this, and I am sorry, but also not. The camera we were using moments ago died, and we don't have the charger for it, so we're using my Canon with the HDMI out. And for some reason, with this camera, it won't allow us to do it clean, as they call it. So it's going to be displaying all these metrics. That doesn't matter to you, does it? Don't let it slip away. All right. We're going to talk about Nick Fuentes today. When we had New Nation on, it got a little contentious. A little like, no, I'm not going to piss off the Groypers. And listen, Nick Fuentes and the Groypers, they're being exposed. Not like, oh, they're secret footage. They're never go full retard. That's a good rule. And yet they're going full retard. The race riots in England are exposing this. They're wavering and waffling with Trump, not just on the support of Israel grounds, but saying that Kamala is bae and all this shit. I'm not seeing their episodes, but I've been watching a lot of commentary on Twitter. His episodes, rather. Milo Yiannopoulos and him are going at it on Twitter now. Although Nick had a really funny comeback. This is very online, but Nick had a very funny comeback to him. I'm immodest. I'm not going to say it, but it was about Milo's big gay ass. That was pretty funny. Basically, this is something I sniffed out and I've been saying in private with friends for... Oh, you can manually move the square? Look at that. Are you just going to do that up there so I can move over here? Okay, cool. Good thinking. I've sussed this out months ago, that the whole inshallah cozying up to the Mohammedans thing, oh, the Muslims, they're based. No. That kind of thinking is why the Groypers misstepped so hard with the race riots in England. So basically, backstory on that, if you're not paying attention to that stuff, which is fine, is 3 little girls got stabbed by an immigrant in England, and it was a tipping point for the hooligans and for working class and other white European English people. And it spread to Ireland, and there was Irish riots, and there's been riots, big bad riots. There were already Irish riots. All right. Well, yeah, burning down migrant buildings. Look, the white man has woken up to an extent in England, and they're going, we're done. This is silly. We're going to the streets now. It takes a lot. you know this. Most of the people watching this are white. It takes a lot to get white people riled up. Get them white folks riled up. It takes them a lot to get riled up enough to go to the streets with knives and bats and start burning stuff. Politically, you can win the Super Bowl and burn a car with drunk losers. You know those guys are just dorks. You know this kind of sports guys. These guys, they're yeah, that's their life, which is the whole point, right? Sports is ball is life. It's a total distraction. What's his name? The nebbish left-wing intellectual, the linguist guy. I cannot. Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky, who's a nerd. He famously is sports is totally distraction. It's to ameliorate the masses, to nullify, it's to mollify them. Yeah, pacify them. And he's right. I mean, he's a left-wing guy, but he's right. And sports does that to people, but it takes a lot to rile white people up to go out in the streets because someone was murdered. For whites to kick off a race riot, that's a lot. So it's happening. And what's happening with what if Nick Fuentes tweets? He tweets, it's astroturfed and yada yada yada, and this is not the way, and like this one super buff, huge, actual neo-Nazi guy was like, "You are a total pussy." I wish I had that link for you. Neo-Nazi tweet. It's gonna just go to his Twitter. Yeah, sorry for the delay. Just go to Nick's Twitter. World War II. Okay, whatever. Yeah, scroll down. Are we on desktop mode? Oh, no. Yeah, switch it over. Hotkey 2, I think. Shift 2 or whatever. Yeah. Did that work? Is that right? Oh, no. Is it freezing? Did it freeze? No. Okay, cool. All right, we're back. All right. Okay. Now go to his actual page. Yeah. Scroll down. Okay, keep going. It's fine. No more foreign wars. I love it. Keep going. Don't care. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, scroll down like several. He's talking about astroturfing and all that. Okay, I should have linked this. Basically, this like real neo-Nazi guy who got arrested for it, did a side-by-side comparison. It's not going to be in his feed. He's not going to retweet to that. I don't even think he replied to it. But basically, it has. You can just leave that up. It has him infamously. I'll link. We'll put this links in the description. It has him infamously fighting. Not infamously, but it's so cringe. He's dressed like Kanye. He's got a big puffer jacket on with like these moon boots, and some dork is trying to like fight him in a lobby at some hotel, and he's like slap fighting him. Now Nick Fuentes is a very small man. He's very small. I've met him once, back in like 2017 or something when he came to Politicon in Nashville and got kicked out. I met him and I didn't really know about him that much. But here's the deal: they're going full retard at this point. And I've always said this: Nick is the jester. Archetype. He's the Loki figure. He wants, say there was like a mass awakening of like Jewish whatever, like he wants. What's he going to do after that? Like, what's the play? I don't know. But he can't sustain. He's too effete. He's too small. And he's not Napoleonic, so you don't have that going for it either. For there to be like a lasting and cohesive template. There's really no template other than being reactionary. That's fine. You need reactionary people, and I'm a reactionary person in a way. But also you have to have a template for what if you win. That's why like when Trump won, it was like the most understaffed administration of all time because they didn't think they were going to win. And then they win, they're like, "Oh shit. We've got to hire like the vice deputy of agriculture and whatever." And that's why Project 2025 exists, to get in case, well, which he's disavowed, I guess. I don't really know the status of that. I was going to apply, but I didn't after all that dropped. I still might apply just for shits and giggles. But Fuentes gets online, is like, "This is AstroTurf. This is ridiculous. Like, don't do that." And everyone in the comments, they're ratioing the shit out of him with their replies saying like, what do you have, oh political genius? What should we be doing? You know? And this whole infatuation with Muslims because they're not Jews, like the Europeans, you may have some people who are like, well, the Jews, da da da. They're living this invasion. They're living it. So like they're not like, oh, the Jews, it's the Jews. They're like the Muslims who are trying to chop us up and stab our daughters. That's the problem. And so Christendom, and if you're a Catholic Christian watching this, in charity, obviously, you must be opposed to Islam. I am not friendly with Islam. It's fake. It's gay. Though Muhammad literally married some 6-year-old and then waited until she was 9 to have sex with her. That's freaky weird. Okay? I don't care what you say. That's freaky. Freaky deaky. It's gross. So we need to be opposed to Islam. And ironically, like, you know, on the right, people are like, you never say that about you never say that about Muslims. Well, hell no, they wouldn't, because they'd come to you, they'd want to jihad you.
I think that's one why they're so obsessed with Muslims. One of the reasons is because Muslims will actually enforce their political will on the Christians.
Interesting. That's an interesting theory. My producer just floated the idea that one of the reasons why they're infatuated with the Muslims is because the Muslims are actionable. They enforce their policies, and they have a political monolith in a way, and they actually put their money where their mouth is. Whereas Christians now they're really like kind of Donatists. They think that the God of the Old Testament was like a kind of, that wasn't like he is the new covenant. He is the gospel, the good news. But they think they divorced themselves. Like Jesus couldn't be down with like sicking a bear on children, on the teenagers who were making fun of Elisha, or the God who smote kingdoms. Yeah, they're the same people. Duh. He doesn't change. So what does that mean? Obviously, somewhere in between the Protestant Reformation and now, there's been this soft-minded laundering of the Christian message, where you have these kind of, and I know this because I lived this for a long time, you have this kind of irreconcilable duality where it's like, on the one hand, I'm supposed to be like the nice guy and like groovy. On the other hand, I'm supposed to like stand up for what's right. Well, yeah, you need to be kind and listen to St. Paul. He says it. There's all these templates like love your enemies, feed them, or feed the alien and all that stuff. Sure. But why did Peter have a sword to lop off the ear of the centurion who came to arrest Jesus? They had them things on them. They were strapped, guys. Yeah, he brings a sword, okay? He's strapped. Now, what is it? I saw this evangelical on Twitter. He calls it Jesus juking. It's brilliant. Now, I don't want to, it's, to me, not to be a stickler or something, but now that I say that out loud, it's in a way kind of taking the Lord's name in vain. Kind of, I don't know. It's anyway, he calls it Jesus juking. And basically what that is when something that could turn into like a campaign of action against somebody else or some grouping or something is talked about, which is why white people are suppressed. Because when we get really angry, we mobilize with like atomic bombs and supersonic missiles and well-oiled machines. And so they're like, no, that we can't. Don't do that. I mean, that's just what happens. So you have a lot of like a Jesus juking happening where when something actionable, like, hey, it's not charitable to let your borders be overrun. And Anglos, like America can be more pointedly Anglo. Like I haven't said this to anyone outside of my tribe, so to speak, yet, but I'm a Native American. I know one person who may be watching this who will be shaking his head because he's a Blackfoot. I'm a Native American. My tribe is Anglo-Saxon. Okay. There are other Native Americans. There's black people who have been here literally so long. What are you going to go to Liberia? Did we talk about that in the episode a couple episodes ago? Or did we just talk about that amongst ourselves? Liberia, a country that we carved out of the western side of Africa, that is named, the capital of which is named Monrovia for James Monroe. And then Marcus Garvey apparently started a shipping line, like the black instead of the white star lines, like Titanic. He started the black star lines. If you don't know about Marcus Garvey, Google him. But basically, he was like a black separatist guy back in the day. And they founded this country, and he like started this shipping line, and like 100,000 people went over, black people, to like go back to Africa, and they ended up running the country until the 80s when there was a coup and the natives took over, and now it's like the poorest country in Africa. Okay, but if I start like this whole show is the subject of like someone watching this is going to try, like, I don't know, no one watching this is probably going to try to Jesus juke me, but it's like, hey man, we shouldn't really be talking about this, and like, you need to love your neighbors and da-da. Yeah, I want to will their good. I want to will their good. I don't want to just be a nice get along guy. That's not what the gospel is. I'm not a monastic. I've got a kid. I've got a wife. Like my station in life is not a contemplative. I'm not a contemplative. Obviously, you're watching the show. I contemplate many things, but I probably like not well, not as well as I want to. But I'm not some sort of like cloistered contemplative, right? Like Saint Francis himself, who like lives love because they want to get their dogs blessed by a female priestess. He went down to Arabia to try to get martyred, and the Sultan thought he was cute, even though he was roasting the Sultan in the Sultan's religion, and was like, "No, this is the true way. You got to like, you must submit to our Lord Jesus Christ." And the Sultan thought he was so cute, he just sent him back. He sent him back with a little horn, like an ivory tusk thing. That's the only. He tried to lavish him with gifts, and he said no. And then the Sultan remarked to his attendant and said, "What kind of man doesn't want riches?" Like it was like that's the thing. Post-Christian, secular lefty like clown world, like that. That's baked into that now. Not like the not wanting riches. Like that's baked in. This Christian asceticism is baked into it. But in the Sultan's world and in the ancient world and still in some parts of the world now, like being broke, you're a loser. You're weird. You're a weird loser. So when you Jesus juke, you're basically like, okay, well, you have to love everybody. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean we can't talk about race. We can't talk about Jews. We can't talk about, the problems within the white, pointed problems within the white community pertaining to these issues, pertaining to whatever else. I mean, because like liberals love it when you're like, okay, white people do this wrong. They're like, okay, yeah, that's what we love talking about. Is that charitable? Why is it that, well, I know why, because they don't want to talk about these other things because they're scared. They hate the Middle Ages. They hate it. They hate integralism. They hate, I don't know. They really want the marketplace of ideas to compete and win out. And that's fine. Like I'm all about open discourse. The Middle Ages did not preclude open discourse about things. I mean, you had to fall in line, of course, with certain things, but just like we don't litter, you don't blaspheme. Okay. Wow. Now everyone's blaspheming and no one's littering. I'd rather everyone litter and not blaspheme. I'd be out there picking up trash. Be like, dude, I wish they wouldn't throw this nasty trash everywhere, but at least no one's blaspheming. It's all about a hierarchy of goods. And for most people, and even myself, I have to work through a lot of this, and I do it on the show, and I do it with my friends a lot. You have to work through what the hierarchy of goods are. What's the true good? What's the greater good in any situation, any posture, in any discourse or whatever? And you're seeing a deficiency of this. It's like the reverse Jesus juking with Nick Fuentes. Nick's like the reverse Jesus juker. You heard it here first. And like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying. I've met him once in passing, and I'm sure I would get along fine with the guy in person. He'd probably think I'm a cuck, but whatever. Yeah, but I'm married. Honestly, at this point, if you're not married and you're whatever, how old is he? Probably 28? 28 now, 27? I mean, if you're not courting someone at 27, 28 with your life together, reasonably together, dude, you've got to lower your expectations and stop whacking off and get out of this coon brain mindset. Okay, women, it's not going to be ma-50s, like housewife, subservient, whatever. That's another thing. You're not the guy. You're not that guy. Like, you're not the 50s dad. I don't know. Like, but you still have to make a go at it. As Chesterton says, anything worth doing is worth doing badly. So find somebody and quit having wet dreams. Anyway, Fuentes, I'd love to talk to him. I'd love to meet him because in a way he is kind of the future of the right. But recently, big L's. they are basically wanting. It's like It's really just kind of low-key gesture accelerationism, where it's like, all right, Kamala doesn't want to do anything with Israel, so we want Kamala. No, like the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. Like, no, dude. I'm sorry. If we don't, I mean, if you want to, that's this kind, like I've said this before on the show, and I've said this before ad nauseum to people in person. This kind of like accelerationism is the purview of single people. It's the purview of single people. Like, if you really want the boogaloo, okay, first of all, do you have kids? I don't want the boogaloo. I don't want the collapse. Okay, I don't want to have to do the actual Benedict option and go live in freaking East Tennessee in the mountains. Well, my kid's like emerging from a hole with like mud all over, and it's like, Dad, my left arm stopped working. Are they out there? I didn't see anything on the scouting trip. Where's your mom? Oh, that's right. She's dead. I haven't had any potassium in like 2 weeks. Oh, gosh. I don't want that. You don't want that. You're not going to like Black Rifle Coffee Company your way out of your city. Okay? You're going to be overwhelmed. It's like Joker from that Batman movie. It's like let's have the boogaloo. Like nothing ever happens. Like no something's happening now. Like, okay, what do you want? What do you want to happen? I don't want civil war. Okay. Now, if civil war comes, I think the southern states should secede with large portions of the Midwest, but I don't want there to be hot wars over it. That would suck. Like, it sucks. Like you can just tell how decadent this era is, because the people are clamoring for something they really don't know about. Like, I was on vacation. I mentioned this. I was on vacation with a guy who was a Green Beret medic. Shorter guy, like built, very, very calm individual, very measured, very smart guy. He had been a Green Beret medic for like many, many, many years, over a decade. You know, he doesn't want war. Now, he's not like radical like me or whatever, but he can tell you what it's actually like. You know, and I don't know. I find it weird that now obviously there's outliers, and I know that there's a lot of married men who are like, let's rock. I don't want that, and it's not because I'm comfortable. It's because I want the common good to obtain, and war is a necessary evil at the end of the day. I mean, that's church teaching anyway. Like, well, I mean, I had this discussion with Dr. Smith about war and like how it's just, and sometimes positive wars are good and all that. That's fine. Yeah, I understand. But war, come on. Do you really want to have to like shoot your neighbor? Like, it's like the people who have this fantasy of like, oh, I wish someone would break in my house. I mean, the only time I've said that recently, there was this video of this little girl running into this like black family's house, and the dad's standing there. It's a white girl, like probably 10. She runs in screaming because her stepdad was chasing her, and he's like, come in, come in. And so they've already called the cops because she's like, help me, this guy's running after me. Dude, this guy comes to the front door and kicks the front door in. And this black dad is like, get out of my house. He's like an older guy. He's like probably 45. He's like, get out of my house. And his teenage sons are like standing there, like, they're like, oh, what? And so the guy has to go from like elevated alert to like, I'm going to kill you mode. And you can see you can hear his adrenaline kick in. And he starts roaring like a bear, like screaming at this guy like a bear. Like, get out of my house right now. And like, basically, he's huge. He's like pushing the guy out. I don't want that I don't want those conditions. No, I want my kids to be able to live in a stable society. That's what we want. We want stable society. Now, if we have a Franco figure come in, that's one thing about the Trump interview. I was listening. I was like, he's the last gasp, arch boomer. He's talking over the people he's trying to talk to. Like, he won't shut up. That's fine. It's funny. He has funny nuggets in there, but it's kind of insufferable in a way, you know. And if we had, like, it'll be one of those things, like, down the line, if we actually have like a super principled Chad who's like, yes, so as I told you before, you're never gonna stop this. God's on our side, you know, and like just some sort of integralist, you know, monarchist Chad guy. If we actually had that figure, we'd look back at Trump and be like, he was kind of cringe. I mean, we would. And I've got a flag of his on my front porch. He's all we got right now. Okay. But, yeah, this reverse Jesus juking kind of myopic thing going on. I don't know. Like, it's good. He's kicking the Overton window open. I've said this a million times on the Jewish stuff, and that's good because, like, after 9/11, it was game on talking about Muslims. And the whole country was like, I remember going to an airport and seeing a Sikh. I didn't know what a Sikh was. Big turban. This was probably 9 months after 9/11 or a year after 9/11. I was like, yo. And he's like, hello, buddy. And you could just see it, and he knows, like, no one knows what he is. But he has to wear his turban that has his long ass hair in it, like wrapped up. And but I heard maybe an urban legend that they used to be able to bring their like ceremonial knives on the plane. Nah, definitely not anymore. But because like Orthodox Sikhs carry a little dagger wherever they go to like be able to protect people. But it was game on after 9/11 for Muslims, and the Jews, no one's able to talk about them, and like Nick's talking about it, and everyone's talking about it now, and that's fine. And good. It's a good conversation to have. I think it does move into literal, like, I do believe that there's a lot of hatred, and I don't mean this from like a, hey man, stop that, no hatred, no hate allowed in my neighborhood. No, like wishing ill, like not like imprecatory prayers. Like I pray for this guy's downfall, like the evil king or whatever, like my enemies, may they be smited. Like, because imprecatory prayers, those are illicit and sometimes good. If I'm held captive by a kidnapper, dear God, please kill him. That's fine. Not like, dear God, please have him like soften his heart, and I hope that he comes to the Lord and frees me. No, he's obviously firm in his resolve. His heart's hardened. Just go ahead and kill him, please. That's okay. You can have imprecatory prayers as long as they don't bleed over into vengeance. And I can't play with imprecatory prayers, or however you say that word. I can't play with that because I struggle with wrath. And vengeance is mine, says the Lord. It's not mine. So it's hard for me to even want to foster something like that. If you're a more measured person, maybe. But anger is the dubious luxury of normal people. And I'm not very good at that. So it's just very funny to me, though, that there's some unrest. There's some disquiet and some seeming L's coming out of the Groypers. So the first L from that I can see is standing Kamala Harris in a way, and being like he's too Zog. Like, okay, why don't you run for president? You're not even old enough yet, but you gotta be 35. But dude, you know, or like JD Vance's wife is Indian. Okay. Where is your wife? Where's your wife? I'm sorry. You're decadent. Like my kid almost died. One of my kids almost died when she was born. That 2-week period steeled me into a man more than anything I've ever experienced. I have stakes in the game. I've got kids. And you think, and I've said this a million times, you think you're right wing, just wait till you have children. Wait till you get married and you're like, oh, I've got to protect this lady. Wait till you have kids. Wah! Wah! Daddy, what's that rainbow flag? Daddy, what's Protestantism? Daddy, what was 9/11? Daddy, why do people go to war? Huh? Yeah. You can sit on your live stream. That's fine. I'm doing it right now. I can afford to do this, and it's fine. It's good. I love doing it. Same time, dude, if you're having an incel brigade, like that's never going to be a winning ticket. And I've always said this, when the Chad comes along and is like, all right, fag, step aside. It's time. What's the future? What's the future? What does the scripture say? Like married people they're clouded by they can't serve God as well as single people because they're clouded by their worldly attachments or whatever. And the single man, he thinks of the things of God, and the married man thinks of the things of the world because he has a wife. Duh. Okay. But if you're not like a consecrated single or something, or you're not on a track to be in a vocation at this point, frankly, it seems to me that you're bucking your vocation. All right, so enough about Nick Fuentes. Yeah, Muslims are cringe. All right, to sum it up, Muslims are cringe. Islam is extremely cringe. Kamala Harris, you would rather us be ruled by this is the whole Richard Spencer. Okay, I'm not done. This is the whole Richard Spencer conundrum. Richard Spencer does unite the right, yada yada. He's hail Trump with the Roman salute, all that. He's the darling of the dissident. He basically coined the term alt-right. He's the darling. Then what happens? His weird Russian wife and him divorce. He's living in Whitefish, Montana with his mom or something. And now he's like, I like Biden because he's like a normal, he's like a smart, he represents the intelligentsia of whites. What? No. I want the portrait. I want the White Boy Spring portrait guy. I don't want the New York Times intelligentsia guy. Because like, if you're not even wisdom adjacent, which I would say Trump is, oh my gosh. All right, it just cut off, which is fine for you, but I've got the audio. If you're not even wisdom adjacent, why? It's not funny. Like, again, we have kids, we have interests in the world. And if you don't, you're not like some sort of cringe lord. But you should be moving towards that general direction. It's not going to reactivate. The video's not going to reactivate. So, I don't know. I've been thinking about going to the Dominican Third Order. I've also been thinking about becoming a deacon, to be real with y'all. That would be fun. Give some homilies, bless some people, do some marriage counseling, which if you talked to me and my wife, you'd think, if you knew, you'd be like, that's whack. That's crazy. But I've been thinking about doing that because I could do the show and I'm going to keep doing the show. At the same time, like, all right, I want to focus on my spiritual life. That's my primary thing. I want to read the catechism. I want to read the scriptures. I want to know how I'm supposed to live and live my vocation to the best of my ability. And that should be the goal of each human. We can talk about the Jews. We can talk about, crime and all that stuff. That's fine. But we have to be focused on I guess keep it on that because there's no camera. But we have to be focused on our vocations. And I guess that's my biggest gripe with the Groypers is that for all the Christ is King talk, for all the kingdom, we need a Catholic society talk and all that. All right. What's your vocation and why aren't you fulfilling it? 99, baby. I love you.
We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.